everyone, this is Marie from Omens Apothecary. I am here today to do a video about something that I get a lot of questions about. It's how to deal with spirits or ghosts in your home environment. So I did write a little list here to go off of, so I wanted to make sure I touched all of certain points about it. I have been living with and dealing with spirits my entire life since I was born, so I kind of have a lot of knowledge about it, but I am not an expert by any means. I am just doing this because I've had a lot of people out there asking me what to do or, how to help them. So I decided to do a 3-part video series, which the first video will be how spirits communicate, so how you know that you will be dealing with spirits or entities. My second video is going to be what not to do. There are definitely some don'ts when it comes to dealing with spirits. And my third video will be what you do, what you can do to live with spirits or get rid of them, whatever you need to do depending on what kind of spirit it is or entity. And today I have Bellfire here joining me. She came out of Brumation to do a video with me. I miss her very much, so I'm very glad that she is joining me today. So anyway, here we go. I'm going to just delve right in. These are different ways that spirits communicate, or that you know that you have a spirit or presence there. First of all, you can see them with your eyes sometimes. That is the first way you would know is, like for me, sometimes I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would see somebody standing right next to my side of the bed, or see somebody across the room, or somebody walking through. And at first I would just, if I wasn't living alone at the time, I would just think it was the other person. And then, you roll over and that person is right next to you and you realize, oh, I just watched a spirit walk through my room, or I just had somebody standing over my bed. Okay. Now for me, I've been dealing with this pretty much since I was born, so I just roll back over and go back to sleep. It's no big deal. I'm used to it. It's happened a lot. For others, you might panic a little. Don't do that. That doesn't help you none. So another way that you can see them sometimes is with your third eye, in your mind's eye, not with your physical eyes. Sometimes you can be sitting there and you just suddenly see this picture, this vision in your mind of a spirit or a being wherever they are doing whatever they're doing. So sometimes you can see them that way. I don't know if everybody can see them like that. You may have to be sensitive or really in tune with your third eye and other senses and abilities in order to see them that way. I'm not for sure. I know that I can see them that way. Sometimes you can also hear them, like actually physically hear them with your ears. Sometimes they will say something to you or speak to you instead of seeing them. So that is another way that you could experience a ghostly entity. Also, sometimes you will, oh, come here. Sometimes you will hear them in your thoughts. If, like when you're thinking about something, a lot of times your thoughts are in your own voice. They're about things that you would normally think about. And you know that you're hearing spirits or experiencing spirits or other entities when your thoughts come across not in your own voice, or when you start having thoughts or thinking about things that you would normally never do, never think about, thoughts that are not your own. That's kind of when you know you're being influenced or spoken to by an entity. Sometimes also I will hear them just saying things to me. We'll have a conversation. Sometimes that's okay. Sometimes you're not always dealing with a nice one, and that's not always a great thing to do. You can also sense their presence, especially if you're very sensitive or empathic. You may walk into a room and feel an energy shift. Sometimes it can be very happy, very positive. Sometimes you'll walk into a room and you will just feel so lighthearted and so happy, like the sun is just shining in your soul. And that's a great feeling, and that's a great entity to be around. Sometimes you'll walk into a room and you will just straight up be like, oh hell no, and off you go. You're out of there. And that is a very real thing. And yes, if you get that feeling that you really don't want to be there, leave. You don't want to be there. That means there's something very negative or malevolent in your space. So definitely trust your own intuition on that one. Sometimes you know that there are entities around when things start moving on their own. Sometimes you will actually physically see things move. I know that I worked in a bar one time that had its own entity. It was a spirit, and he would fling things around. Sometimes whole stacks of dishes would just be flung across the kitchen, or I would be standing there talking to a customer and something would fly at me from behind me. One time the tip jar actually flew off the counter at me, and I was just like, okay, did that happen? And the person in front of me saw it. So I would just be like, okay, well, that's Thomas. He's a jerk. Just ignore him. And then I tell him, knock it off, Thomas. He wasn't necessarily a malevolent spirit. He was more just did what he did, and we all just dealt with it. So that is another way that you know that there are things there. Also, as well as things moving on their own, sometimes you may just experience things suddenly disappearing, not being where you put them. You can look and look and look everywhere and not find what you're looking for. An hour later, it's exactly where you left it, exactly where you looked a million times, where you knew it should be, but it wasn't. So I've had some tricksters. I know when my grandfather passed away, I had a few experiences like that shortly after, where things would just go missing, and then they would reappear, and he must have really thought it was funny. But I didn't think it was so funny sometimes, because I thought I was losing my mind, as I knew I just set something somewhere and it was no longer there until an hour or so later, and then it was there again. So that can definitely happen. They do think they're funny sometimes and like to play tricks. Another way you know if you have spirits or entities, or you can sense them, is that sometimes you'll feel them. You'll feel cold spots. This can happen a lot. You might feel a shiver go up your spine. You might feel your entire body go cold, or a cold front just run through you. Sometimes you may feel a cold touch on your skin. That is all part of it. That definitely lets you know that a spirit is touching you, trying to contact you physically. Also, you may get the feeling that you are being watched. That is not a fun feeling. I don't care if the entity is happy or not happy, if they're good or bad. It really doesn't matter. It's a creepy feeling. Sometimes they will watch you when you sleep. Sometimes you may just be at home doing something and you feel like somebody is looking over your shoulder. They probably are. I know sometimes I have woken up at night to see somebody standing over me, or have somebody this close to my face. That's not very fun, whether they mean harm or not. It's kind of creepy. So I know I wake up a lot at night, and a lot of time it's just because I'm being watched. And it's just like, okay, why? I'm trying to sleep. Do you mind? You know, there are better times for this. But it is one way that they communicate. It's not always the most fun. Also, another way that you know if you are dealing with spirits would be, sometimes you start doing things that you would never do, or you start thinking things that you would never think. Sometimes that means that a spirit has attached itself to you, or an entity has attached itself to you, and they have you doing things that you would not normally do. They might have you listening to music you would never listen to, eating food you would never eat, dating people you would never date, doing activities that you would never normally do. Suddenly you feel the need to do them. Sometimes it can be something as simple as craving a food that you don't like. Suddenly you just feel that you have to have it. So that is not always the funnest thing. But in my next couple of videos, I will kind of give you some heads up on some do's and don'ts when you are dealing with different entities. I have been dealing with these things my entire life, so I may deal with them in a way that is different than how somebody who is new to this would deal with them, because I'm more comfortable with it, and because I've been dealing with it for so long that I just get fed up with it, and I am not afraid, so I will just talk to them as I would talk to any human that is alive, and deal with situations that way. And sometimes that's all it takes. So sometimes all you have to do is let them know that you're not having it, or you don't appreciate it, and sometimes that's all it would take to get them to leave you be. So anyway, I hope you like my video, and I just wanted to do this because I have so many people asking me about it. There doesn't seem to be a lot of information out there, especially from people who are real like me. I'm just a witch. I have abilities, I see things, and I definitely deal with spiritual entities on the regular. I live in a very haunted area of Wisconsin, so this is definitely a regular thing for me. I want you to know that you're not crazy, you're not alone. There are a lot of people in this world who experience the spiritual side of this world, and it can be amazing and fun. It doesn't have to be scary. So I just want you to know that. And if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel for more updates and videos, and definitely for the other 2 parts to this series. So thank you so much. Also, if you need to contact me, you can go to omensapothecary.net. I have a message me section where you can just send me messages on my page. I also do have some blogs that I do filled with different spells and different things that I like to talk about as well. You can also find me on Etsy at Omens Apothecary as well. So I do sell different incense, a lot of handcrafted things for witches, whether it's incense, spell jars, spell bottles, crystals, dazing balls, anything that you could really think of that you might need. So definitely look me up. So thank you so much for watching my video, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Blessed be, and check out my other videos.